Hey everybody, Payments Professor reporting to you live. Okay, I'm not live, but this is going to be about reports because it's time to report for duty. We have a lot of activity and some details to get into when it comes to reporting. There'll be a variety of options that will be available to financial institutions as well as their service providers to be able to support reconciliation and general ledger posting. Again, very important topics. There will be a lot of information as well within these reports and a lot of data in the FedNow reports, as we will see information for payments and non-value messages like the request for payment or the request for information or the request for return of funds or there's a lot right there. Let's just stick with that and go on. Now, what reports, what things are going to be in there? A lot. As we stated in an earlier class, the Fed's standard accounting reports, like their daily statement of account, the FIRD or the Financial Institution Reconcilement Data, and the SASF, the Statement of Account in spreadsheet format, all of those are going to be available. And they're going to be revised to include FedNow activity, and they will be provided 7 days a week. But it will be up to the participants to determine how frequently they will perform reconciliation. That's on you. Are you going to reconcile throughout the day, one time? That's up to you. See, you have to do that on your own. And to make it easier for you, there are settings for the reports that you will be able to configure as part of your FedNow onboarding process. So in preparing, let's start thinking of how and when you're going to reconcile so you'll know when to set up that during your onboarding process. Also, because things can change over time, and they will, it is possible to go in and update your report configurations as needed. So if you start it and you don't like how it's working, you want to change it, you can go change it. But let's start taking a deeper look into our FedNow specific reports. Let's look at the details. Let's look at the information that they will provide so that we can determine how we want to be able to use them. We know that settlement only occurs within master accounts, and the details of where settlement is to take place for the routing number that is identified within the payment messages determines which account it happens against, okay? Based on that routing number, FedNow will provide reports about all activity. That includes payment messages and the non-value messages, like our requests that we mentioned earlier. I want to make note that within these messages, there could be transactions at the master or primary routing number level. Depending on your setup, it could be at a sub-account routing number, or it could be at a secondary routing number level. So make sure you know at what level this is all going to be happening. Because reporting is so important, we got to make sure we know what's happening where. And if you're working at a correspondent level, well, correspondents can receive reports for the respondents. Correspondents can receive the reports for the respondents. Activity totals and detailed reports will be available on demand or will be automatically provided intraday for reconcilement. FedNow will allow detailed reports to be requested at any time for a previous cycle date. The totals report can be requested for a prior cycle date as well as for the current cycle date. For current cycle date reports, it will show the current up to the last minute of processing. It also depends on when you make the request. Do note that data that's going to be in there. Now, where will you find the reports? The FedNow reports will be accessible via the FedLine solutions using ISO messaging, interfacing with it really. Those will be requests that will be the CAMT 060, and the return report will be a CAMT 052. Or you can also access the reports via the FedNow portal. or you might be getting them through one of your correspondents, your service providers, okay? How long will the reports be available? That's an important question. The Fed actually anticipates offering 90 days of historical data available for these reports. Your service providers may offer more, but the Fed's going to give us 90 days is what they're anticipating. What will you find in the reports? That's probably one of the most important questions. We want to know what these reports are and what's in the reports. Let's start with the activity totals report. The activity totals report contains the FedNow service summary at a routing number level for payments and non-value messages. By default, the activity totals report will be automatically sent at the end of each cycle date via ISO messaging in a CAMT 052 message. So we'll know that at the end of a cycle date. If you are a correspondent, you may receive reports for each of your respondents, and then it's up to you to distribute them as needed, if you choose to. That's if you choose to receive them. Well, and of course, if you choose to distribute them, that I hope you do. The activity totals report will have information for credit transfers. That's going to be our PAX 08 and our PAX 09, as well as our returns, our PAX 04. And we will see things like a total amount of successful debit transactions, total amount of successful credit transactions, total number of successful debit transactions, total number of successful credit transactions, total number of debit transactions rejected, total number of credit transactions rejected. Noticing a pattern here? It's one for each of them, right? And for non-value messages like the request for payment or the request for returns and the request for information, all three very important, we will have data including the total number of non-value messages that were received, the total number of non-value messages that were sent. So we've got values in here telling us summaries of everything that's happening. You can see that this is more like a summary of the data. And well, the truth is sometimes we need some details. And that is where we will have the activity details report. That's where it comes in. And we're going to get into the activity details report in what? In the next class. Because that's enough for now, right? I think to sum it all up, the best thing to say is class dismissed.